Chris was worried about that. But yeah, I'm kind of stupid that way. I kind of go for looks more than
Do you look at my
practicality.
bike? You see what I'm running for carbs?
On which? This one?
This one.
Actually, no.
Those were developed in 1933.
Really? What are they?
Pretty amazing
Oh, they are?
machines, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
If you notice, they're solid brass.
No, I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
I'll
they're,
go look at
they're
that.
the old remote floor
Wow.
bowls.
Wow.
They were the predecessor of monoblocks.
Is that the bike with it come with?
It's definitely
Or
a
no,
nice
that's in the. What is it? A 48 or
I was horrified
They
the other
couldn't
day.
even start.
Just horrified.
Vincet with
You see the
monoblocks
carburetor on this thing?
55 last year came. Other than that, they were old carbs.
Oh.
So they never updated with the
Oh
others.
my gosh.
That's the float bolt sticking out the side of it.
Just right here?
Yeah.
Wow.
Damn, that's solid brass. Huh, wow.
That's a 1933 carburetor?
That's when they developed them. They never changed them
Wow.
until 55 when they went with the monoblock. They only made them for about 6 months before they completely quit making them.
And I forget what the heck did Chris put on.
He put 36 millimeter Makunis.
That's right.
But this is your famous poster here. I can't tell you much about John Surtees, but I can tell you that this bike in '57 went about 187 miles an hour, just like it sets.
The Rapide?
No, it was the Burns and Wright Special.
Oh.
Marty Dickerson just missed 200 miles an hour on that bike, and he did go 147 on his B Rapide, and that was in '53 on pump gas. And this bike is quite famous. In 2010, it sold for $1.1 million.
Holy.
It's a rolly-free bathing suit bike.
Rolling Creep bathing suit bike?
Rolly-free
Oh.
bathing suit bike. And the reason they say that is he couldn't quite go over 150, so he took off. Well, all he wore was a pair of swim trunks, tennis shoes, and a bathing cap, laid down on it like that, and managed to top 150 in 1948. And from what I read, this is 2 weeks out of the factory. All he did was put sawdust in the tires and 10-weight motor oil in it, and took it to the flats. So, as I say, quite famous. I think his top run on that, riding it like that, was 167. So,
Was that the guy they made the movie on?
no, that was Burt Monroe. The guy that they moved, when they watched the movie, and Burt Monroe shows up at Bonneville, and he's met by two motorcycle riders. One of them was Rolly Free on this, the big Texan that played Rolly Free, and the other guy, the little short guy with the black hair, was Marty Dickerson. This guy.
Wow.
Hold still, hold still, hold still.
And I just forwarded him a picture of Marty Dickerson taken a couple of days ago, yesterday. Just sent him a picture to Marty taken yesterday. So,
How old is he now?
we'll put it this way, I've known him for a long time and he's been 87.
As long as you know.
So, well, the big joke was a few years ago, he went to Bonneville. He goes down there every year and helps the Streamliner. And the last day of the meet, it was rainy and crappy. And Steve Hamble says, "You want to try my Rapide, or my Vincet?" And Marty says, "Oh, okay." So he made 2 runs, as I understand it, and came back. And Steve says, "Open it up. You know, why aren't you opening it up?" He says, "Well, I don't want to break it." He says, "Steve says it's bulletproof. Go for it." So he went out and actually broke. I forgot what it was, about 158, 159, broke the record. Well, anyway, the biggest joke is next year he went back and it was nicer. And I don't know, he was 87 or 88 then, I don't know how old. And on a nice day, he broke his own record again. Steve hasn't broke it. So, if you ever watch Marty ride, and it's been a couple years for me, way into his 80s, don't try to keep up with him. In fact, it's been about 5 years ago, I called him in January, and I said, Marty, how you doing? He says, a lot better today, I'm not depressed. And I says, why not? And he says, oh, the kids had me out riding with him. And he's kind of chuckling, he says, and I was the first one home. And I says, what were they riding? Oh, a bunch of Ducatis, those crotch rockets. And I says, what were you riding? He says, oh, my old Honda 500 single. But if you see him ride, you know why. And if you look up Marty, he's in all the record books, vintage racing. He's quite famous, and a tremendous man. You've never met a man like him. Just tremendous. But anyway, yeah, these machines are one thing, but the people around them are something. That's half of it. And they're really special people. I can remember one year I asked Marty, I'm redoing my heads. I didn't realize there's different size valve guides. What size valve guide do I order? He says, Bob, I don't know. I've never ordered one. Marty, you're known for building hundreds of these engines. You've never ordered a valve guide. He said, no, whenever I need one, I just reach over and make it. He's a master machinist. That's what he did for a living. He was a machinist.
Wow.
So, yeah. The best story I can give you on Marty, though, is when I redid my heads. John McDougall up in Canada, who's one of the most renowned engine builders in the world. John says, torque the heads to 40 foot-pounds, won't hurt nothing. He says that way you don't have to retorque. And one of the old gurus called Sid Bieberman, who just died.
Oh shoot, I forgot.
Don't go over 30 pounds, you'll warp the heads. And I'm scratching my head, so I went up to Marty. Marty, you know, what's the proper torque on these heads? He says, Bob, I don't know. He says, just do it like Rolly Free did. And I said, how'd Rolly Free do it? He says, oh, that's about right. Oh, that's about right. Oh, that's about right. So
If
anyway.
it feels good, do it.
Yeah, well, that was his answer, was no torque wrench. You just tighten them until it feels about right. So that tells you our technology definitely hasn't, in some regards, hasn't come that far. Not when you can take some old guru and do it by feel, and we have to use modern equipment to make sure it's right.
Reminds me of like how my mother from the old country cooked. There's no measurements. It was all pinch of this and
Pinch of that.
yeah.
Then did she take
You
the
must be
spoon and go,
Italian.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, test it as you go,
Yep.
like spaghetti.
That's the way the old
Yep.
gurus did it. And unfortunately, I think that's something that's been lost.
What?
Turn towards me.
What?
Wood. I'm taking your mugshot.
Speaking of mugs, yours should be shot.
If you want once more on the Vincet,
What are you laughing at over there? He's over there taking it all in.
bring your camera over
Yeah,
here.
pretty soon we're gonna have to
real
get it
quick
on
and start
you.
in the front. And I'll give you a front to the back nickel dime tour.
Okay. You want to get in there? You want to hold hands?
I'd hold him by the neck.
Well, in fact, I'll do mine. First thing on a Vincent, they'd have disc brakes. If you notice, there's double drums on the front, double drums on the back. It takes 8 brake shoes. And also, if you get a picture of it,
Do you concur?
I concur.
if you take a picture right here, it has a strange operation.
Oh yeah, I see.
That's a rocking beam.
We call it a balance beam. Oh, wow.
A balance beam. What actually happens here is this one here is actually pulling the cable up. See it?
And the sheath on the other one.
The sheath on here is the one doing the work. So the inner cable is anchored, and when you pull on it, the sheath is what pulls this down, and the cable pulls this one up.
So cool.
Very innovative.
Now, the biggest difference between a B and a C actually is the forks. This is called Brampton's. And actually, as I understand it, the only other bike that had this exact fork on it was a Bruff Superior. And if you come over, they put a more robust front end on the C's. Believe it or not, these big ironclad things weigh nothing. I asked a friend of mine where they got them. He said, well, they didn't know what to do with all those old Spitfire airplane props after World War II, so they machined them into forks. And if you look, They list it as aircraft grade aluminum.
Wow.
Also, what's different on this one is this is a spring pack. It has another one identical on the other side. So it's sprung, but it's got a hydraulic here in the middle.
Where the
And if you
Bracken
go
does-
in the back, it has two spring packs, this cylinder here, with that same hydraulic in the middle. So they had a tendency to keep using the same parts.
By the way, Yamaha bought the patent for that rear suspension from Harper's, who had the patent rights for Vincet in 1974. So basically all your modern monoshock motorcycles and four-wheelers, that's where they came from. That was patented by Philip Vincet in 1927.
That front end you're talking about?
No, the rear end.
You were
The
in
rear
the
end.
monoshock.
Yeah, it's actually a welded together triangle, so it's really strong.
Now, if you keep going front to back on the bike, the speedometer is something worth to talk about, because originally, and this is the incorrect speedometer for this bike, it should have a little 3-inch. Okay, it is the correct speedometer for a Black Shadow, and
Let me get on your side over there.
but they wanted something special, so this is actually the speedometer out of a Jaguar. And
Really?
in the first 9 of these that they made, you can tell, because they didn't have a casting made, so they went and the hardware store and bought saucepans. And the first 9 of them have saucepans, so they're great big thick square back to the speedometer.
Wow.
Okay, and then again later they made the castings. Another
There's
thing,
2 stories with the speedometer. One was that the bike was so fast that when you get going over 100 miles an hour, a little speedometer gets hard to read. And the other one was, the other story of it was that they wanted to be proud with the fact that as an advertisement plus, show everybody the 150. The Black Shadow was supposedly the fastest one, and they were guaranteed to 125, and most of them did about 128.
yeah, they were guaranteed they'd get your money back, another bike, or they'd fix it for you if you wouldn't do 125 after proper break-in.
This is at the time when all the other bikes could barely get 90.
Yeah, 85 is top speed on an old Indian or Harley.
Yep.
Oh, and the old Indians and Harleys had side shifters. This had adjustable foot shifters.
I
You
was
take a
looking
look
at that
it.
earlier.
The controls on this are adjustable.
Yeah, see the different size holes here? But that also made them somewhat fragile. So when you move this, you'll notice this piece here moves. If this breaks off, you can actually use this for a hand shifter.
Or you look down and see what gear you're in, because it's the gear
Yeah, it's an
indicator.
actual indicator, but it doubles as a hand shifter also.
No,
I'm sorry, Bob, keep going.
If you go up to the top of the tank and look at the pinstriping, gold paint faded. So Vincent used 24 karat gold leaf for their pinstriping. Another point, there's 2 caps up here. One's the gas, this is the oil tank. The oil tank actually fits inside the gas tank. The top of the motor bolts to it, the bottom of the oil tank. The front steering head is on the front of the oil tank, and your rear shocks bolt to the back of it. So basically, the engine is the main structural member of the whole complex. Well, the joke on that, the new Ducati Panigale does the same thing, and they got all the credit for being the first one. Vincent was doing it in 1946. So 3 bolts in this bike basically comes in 3 pieces. But yet,
The handle's like a dream.
they handle well, you know, to modern specifications. You're not gonna keep up with my Ducati on this, you know, but you're not gonna be embarrassed by it either. You know, decent roads you'll keep up and run together, but yeah, you go out and abuse these new machines and, well, hey, this one particular machine is only rated at 45 horsepower, but torque-wise, it has more torque than the new Cafe racers. So it's all torque. It's a tractor motor, very low horsepower. In fact, red line on this is about 5,300. I think on the Shadow it was 5,700, and on the Racer it was 6,000.
So the Shadow's like Shadow's a hot rod version.
The Shadow was a sports version.
Yeah, it was the hot rod version for civilian, but they made another one called the Black Lightning. Now this was a factory high performance racer No headlight, no tail light, no mufflers, stripped down race bike. And these things are highly, highly sought after. They only made in the
About
30s,
33 of them.
33 of these Black Lightnings.
Although there's a lot more Black Lightning motors than that. The early Cooper race cars, if they ran the 500 category, they used a 500cc Comet motor, and if they ran the 1000cc, they put Black Lightning motors in them. So a lot of your early Cooper race cars used Black Lightning motors.
So what's happened is they took those Black Lightning motors from the Cooper race cars and they built a bike around it and called it a Black Lightning.
Right.
Because the motor numbers depicted it. So we have a lot more Black Lightnings than what they actually came out with.
Yeah. Same thing with Red Rapides. More Red Rapides and Black Lightnings that were ever made. So actually, when you go to buy one of these rare ones, if the numbers have been played with at all, yeah, it can make tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars difference in the value. I mean, it's a big deal.
The Raleigh Freeze bike, which is a famous Vincet, went for how much?
2010, I was told it sold for 1.1 million.
And it's going up.
And that's this bike right here. In fact, I think I just sent you a thing on the internet on it, because they took it to Bonneville and taken pictures of it.
The reason why he's all stripped down was because he couldn't get to 150. He can only get to 148.
49.
149 with the leathers on. So he took off the leathers, put on Speedo trunks, a bathing cap, and bathing shoes, and went 150 miles an hour, almost nude, on the salt flats. If you were to crash on the salt flats at 30, the
His
shock,
road rash, a whole new name, right?
the shock of the salt hitting the wounds would probably kill you.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, the funny thing about Roley, it was a few years later, he actually did 167 on this. And the way the story goes, he suffered a sunstroke. And they caught him just before he fell down. And after the run, his wife said, it's either me or the bike. And this is one of those sad cases where he chose his wife.
Oh,
So that's when he quit racing.
yeah. I thought you were going to say the bike.
But he never remembered setting the record because of a sunstroke. But no,
And that's what you call a real stroker.
you know, anyways, other things on this bike that make it different. When you replace wheel bearings, you replace 6 of them. 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and 2 of the swing arm. If you look, these are valve caps. You take the bolt out of the oil line, the whole rocker arm assembly slides out of here. The rocker arm doesn't fit on top of the valve. There's a collar in the middle. The rocker fits on a collar in the middle of the valve.
What
So you
made
have 2
them-
valve guides.
And that's what made them last so long, because your valve is here. Normally you've got a rocker on the top pushing sideways on a valve guide. On a Vincent, they have a step where you put on a hardened collar, and you have a forked rocker that grabs the middle of the valve, and you have a valve guide on the top and valve guide on the bottom. So you're not only not pushing it sideways, you got twice as much valve guide area. Very clever design. And that all fits on an aluminum cylinder that's split, and that comes out right here. Right here's your push rods. Push rods are extremely short, which makes for a very durable, high revving motor for the amount of stroke and whatnot it has.
They
Keeps the
actually-
valve train light.
They actually refer to them as a semi-overhead cam because the short push rods and the design of the head. But
And you notice that the head's right from here to here, that's the head. So the cylinders are buried way down in the cases. And that kept everything down low. These bikes are extremely light, extremely low, and extremely agile. They feel very close to a standard 650 Triumph, 650 BSA, because they only weigh 450 pounds, which is about what those bikes weighed.
you
when
compare
they're
that to
wet.
the old Harleys and Indians that went 700 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these things were unbelievably light for their day. Well, figure even today, 450 pounds for a 1000cc bike.
Yeah, you gotta get into the Ducati sports bikes and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean it's competitive to today's standards that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's see. The clutch on these is way different too. If you don't think you know how to work on a motorcycle clutch, if you pull this apart, you'll be
Oh,
totally
it's a bit smaller.
confused.
Go on the right-hand side where you've got that.
This
I think
clutch
the
is
red
made
one
to handle
goes in.
100 horsepower, and you can pull it in with your little finger.
Oh, yeah, this is.
It looks like a brake drum on the inside, with 2 shoes on the brake drum and 1 little plate. That little plate catches, which is a servo plate, and the 2 what looks like brake shoes are on pivots, and they slide forward and grab the brake drum. So one of the negatives on a Vincent is you can't speed shift one. You gotta let off the throttle, let those clutch shoes relax, okay? But on the other hand, when they made this bike, there was no such thing as a clutch that handled 100 horsepower or handled the power on it, and they had to make their own. So that's the rest of the story on the Vincent clutch. Oh, double drums on the back, the 2 sprockets. Change, you can adjust your chain without getting in your toolbox. Everything's Tommy bolts. And one thing different is your adjuster for your Vincent chain is on the front. Most are on the back. They're on the front. And this is all spring loaded.
What's with the 2 sprockets?
Turn the back wheel around, change your gearing. It has a quick change rear end.
You have to refer to the first documentation.
Yeah, there's 2 spring clips here. You undo them, undo the Tommy bolt, undo your wing nuts, take
Fender.
the deal. No, the fender's easy, it's hinged. So you just undo the Tommy bolt on the back and it flips up. Then you just pull the back wheel out. Now when you turn it around, you do have to readjust your brake arms. Okay, but other than that, oh, and add or take out a piece of chain, depending on what sprockets you're running.
Wow.
So yeah, they were a couple years ahead of their time.
Very incredible. Is there a tool bike with the bike? Or toolbox?
Oh, yeah, the toolbox is right there.
Okay, so it does come with its own little toolbox.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a big deal.
You gotta
Especially
have
having an original toolbox. They're worth... The original toolbox is complete with these, with all the tools in it. Last one I see on eBay went for almost $4,000.
Wow.
The spare tools, but this transmission dipstick.
Check it out.
And notice the lettering on the cap. Yeah, they hand stamped it all. So it's not even.
What's incredible is I gotta go back and take still pictures now, all this
Okay,
shit.
one other thing, secret on a Vincent's, if you notice, there's a 3rd handle up here.
Yeah?
That's an exhaust lifter.
Oh,
Holds
really?
The exhaust valves open.
Really?
That's how you start and stop an original Vincent.
Oh my gosh.
Start and stop, you mean fire it up and turn it off? Start and stop, or?
You see a key on this
Slid
bike?
it over to turn
No.
the snow.
There's a magneto.
And I had it in pouring gas.
Straight,
in,
that's-
And I went like that and it dropped.
Magneto goes straight to the spark plugs.
Yeah.
Right?
Some of them do put kelp switches on them. They have different varieties, but originally the bike was made, when you go to stop it, you just hold the exhaust valves open.
And what is that, like a decompressioner? Is that what?
Well, same thing as
some-
a compression release.
Something in that.
Yeah, same idea as a compression release, it's just that this has a couple of rollers that slide underneath the exhaust valves that won't allow them to close. And so, as I say, it's just like a compression release.
And what year did they invent that?
Oh, I don't know, a lot of this stuff has been around for years and years and years. Years and years. Yeah, it's too bad I don't have my other Vincent here. You'd enjoy
have
taking
two of 'em?
pictures. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be here.
Yeah,
Wow.
but it's in a museum in Deer Lodge.
Oh.
It's called an Amanda water scooter.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, Vincent went completely out of business in 1957 when their prototype for the world's first jet ski flopped. And so, yeah, I've had it out here for a show a couple of years ago, last year, but it's in Deer Lodge, museum in Deer Lodge, the world's first jet ski, 1957.
So, I'm kind of stuck on this museum thing. I mean, do you donate it to the museum, or they're just using it as
I live
display?
in Deer Lodge, Montana, and the old territorial prison in Deer Lodge, which is on Main Street, been turned over to the community. The prison itself, the old prison, is a museum that you walk through and see how they took care of their inmates. Part of the museum has been turned into a car museum. And in the car museum, there's a little bit of everything in there. A lot of high dollar muscle cars. Primarily though, where I take pride is I have my Amanda parked in there. Now it doesn't look like much a little red boat, but if you know about Vincent's, you know the historical significance. It's a big deal. And I was just told somebody else did get one restored out on the East Coast, and it's in the Barber Museum. I know Summer Hooker, one of the Vincent guys. I helped him a few years ago, and he acquired an original one that is not runnable, but it's in a museum somewhere on the East Coast, as I understand it. So anyway, I do take mine to rallies every few years. I let everybody ride it. That's why I restored this. The experience could be.
So, you know, again, like I'm hooked on it, and you can pull it out anytime you want to take it out.
Yeah.
Get home, ride it, or do whatever.
They put Vincent in there, and part of their thing is if you park there, they keep it there for years. But so far, if I take my Vincent in there, Amanda, they keep it polished, they keep it clean, happy, and a lot of people enjoy it, so it's the best. And plus, Amanda takes quite a bit of space. Not that it's a big craft. It's only about 6 foot long and 4 foot across. But you know, if you think about it, they take up as much space as 4 of these bikes. So it's nice to have a nice warm place for it to be. That, especially live in Montana, you don't want to store it in the heavy duty climate. By the way, a couple things on this bike. I do have the bill sheet on it. February 25th, 1949 is when it started. It was completed in around March 25th of 49, and it was sold in April 25th of 49 in the UK. It's been around the world. The guy bought it from was Dick Busby, which is a well-known Vincetier who died about a decade ago. I've owned this bike about 20 years now. Dick bought it from a guy in Maryland who bought it from a guy in, I forgot, Switzerland or somewhere. But anyway, I do have that information on it, the original bill of sale, and this is the correct license number. And if it ever went back to the UK, it would have that same license number. They keep them for life. So I got tired of everybody calling it a Harley, so I thought I'd really confuse the hell out of them and put a front license plate on it. And a lot of them go Vincent or they go Shadow. In my case, I thought it'd be sacrilegious to put anything on there different than what it actually was made with. So anyway, that is original. Oh, what else can I tell you about the machine? I'm sure I missed a whole bunch of stuff I could have told you.
I'm sure I've got enough. This is going to be great. It really is.
Yeah, they're way different, aren't they?
They're beautiful. They really are. They're beautiful machines. It's like you said, way ahead of their time, and it's too bad they still don't make them.
Now, another thing about Vincent's, people talk about stealing a Vincent. Well, most of them get stolen, they get back. Meaning, if you're going to buy a Vincent, you start checking out the numbers. They only made 11,100 of them. So,
Be kind of hard to pass it around.
The other thing is, on the Vincents, if you look, there's mating numbers on the cases. Every major part has a mating number on it. So if you steal a Vincent part, it's hard to get rid of that mating number. So basically it's like a serial number. Now the rest of the joke, if you look at most of these parts, on that bike or this part, the part number's cast into them or it's stamped into them. In fact, on the first early Bs, every nut and washer had the part number stamped into it. So if you had a box full of Vincent parts, the early ones, and you have the parts catalog, you go through you can actually identify every piece, where it went, put it together, just off the numbers on the thing. Now it cost them too much to do that with every nut, bolt, and washer. So as time went on, it was just the major assemblies that had them. But if you look under almost all even the little washers, they did. But you look under any major part, there's a part number in it. And today, if you want to order that part number is what you go by. Not necessarily a description, but the actual part number. Well, anyway, I I discovered this through experience, but the side cover, when they built the motor, they put the side cover on and then polished the bike. So if you go get another side cover and bolt it on here, it's not gonna fit quite right. They
You
were
know,
handmade.
I was looking at that, wondering the difference. You know, like this one's all black and everything. So you're saying that this black one, if you took it off of here and polished it, it's not going to fit that bike right.
It's not, you have to polish it down to fit.
You have to polish it to
By
fit.
the way, if this had to be in the serial number, and the engine was black, they only made 78B Shadows. You're looking in the neighborhood of $250,000. And I've been told by several, I don't know what the real value of this machine is, but I've been told by several people not to ever let it go for less than 70,000, which was a pretty good chunk of change for a repeat. But you think in terms of if it had to be in the serial number, 200 to 250,000, and it's really the same bike. It's really the same bike. Not, you know, just a few subtle differences. But again, it's that, well, and if there was a C in the serial number, they only made a couple of them, then you're looking at something closer to $350,000, $400,000.
I got to go home and study these videos now.
There's
You
a
know what I
book
mean?
out.
It's too much information to sink in at one
There's
time.
a book out, if you can get it. It's called How to Buy a Vincet. Or I think that's how it's. They sell them for how to buy a Triumph, how to buy other things. There's one out called, I think it's How to Buy a Vincet. And if you can get a hold of that, they do an exceptional job explaining models. Even talks about the Amanda, the things I've told you about. It'll verify. And not only that, but Glenn Shriver's in there with his Amanda Waters, or his Amanda, excuse me. He's in there with his Vincet lawnmower. Oh yeah, Vincet had a special lawnmower. That's one of the most demanded things in the world. And
Uh-oh.
I only know one.
Running out of battery. Go ahead.
So yeah, they're a little different. They have a great big handle on them. The handle's a gas tank. They have motorcycle handlebars on the top with the old English flip gas tank on the top of the handlebars. The whole front of the lawnmower is open, so you don't gum anything up. There's one knob on top of the lawnmower, and that lowers and heightens the deck. Just one knob, and it looks like the gas tank on most lawnmowers, but it's the muffler. So way, way different. But that's another story than industrial engines. They're two-stroke engines. But anyway, well, there's your nickel on Vincent's.
What year's this one?
49.
And Chris's?
52, 51, 52.
And your headlight's flat, his is kind of bulgy.
It won't be long. I just got a deal. $200 I paid for an original headlight lens that's in the mail.
That's not the original.
Oh, shit. Sorry, guys. I'm going out here to catch a little bit of this video. Nice chatting with you.
Yep.
Thanks for the
The
info.
original one was just about.
That guy is like a plethora of information, huh?
I told Chris.
Yeah, look at Al.
Yes. Yeah.
Look how far this one's up. Look at the other one.
Yeah.
So there's something's happening.
Cable?
Something's happening somewhere.
Yeah, it's the same.
We had this problem before. Is it down now?
No. No. Well, you know, Chris, can you look?
Get the pliers
It
again.
might be.
No, it
It's up?
still looks up. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, where's the other ones?
I wonder if I messed up on the seating of the.
Okay.
That should be
so,
this one, right?
so what I need
Well,
to
you
do
can
is
tell
get this
him
one
he's on his
pulled
way
away.
to see a museum.
Okay.
Shit, the film.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
I got your better side.
Want me to moon you? Okay.
Well,
That's pretty damn good,
between
Chris.
Chris's
That's why not.
shadow and my repeat, that's
Put this
200,000.
here. Okay. Let's go for this again here.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Okay, well, we'll see you now. My little guy,
Coming here?
my youngest one, yes. 22.
Lives around here?
He's a flight engineer on a P-3 Orion living up in Oak Harbor.
Oh, wow.
But I shouldn't say little guy because his brother said he's put on weight. And the last time I seen him, he was 6'2", 225 pounds, and that was 6 months ago. So he's bigger than the biggest of us.
Uh-oh,
Still down.
Yeah.
we're
So,
losing disc.
when's he coming down? Okay. So let's
Just
go.
guess at it.
So let's go.
Maybe a quarter each.
Yeah, something like that. Half, quarter.
Do we have to do the left carb fuel mixture again too?
No, it's an idle we gotta do. It should be fine.
Okay, just this one on the fuel though.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready?
But there's no reason not to double check
You
it.
said those are the new premieres?
Yeah, yeah, brand new ones. They make them for Norton, BSA, and Triumph.